Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The kitchen of Dubois Creole Kitchen was a damn inferno, and not just because of the sizzling gumbo on the stove. It was a sweltering summer night in New Orleans. French Quarter, the kind where the air clung to your skin like a second dress. The restaurant, usually alive with the clink of glasses and the hum of jazz, was a battlefield tonight. Tables sat half empty, waiters hovered nervously, and the stench of a fresh scandal hung heavier than the cayenne in the air. Jasmine Dubois, all curves and fire in a red dress that hugged her like a lover, was pacing the kitchen, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice sharp enough to cut through the chaos. Listen, you sorry-ass supplier. I paid for fresh shrimp, not some frozen bullshit. She snapped, her Creole accent curling around each word like smoke. Her gold hoop earrings glinted under the dim kitchen lights, and her curly hair bounced as she gestured wildly. You think you can screw me over? I'll have your whole operation shut down by morning. Across the kitchen, Carter Vaughn, the slick CEO who looked like he'd stepped out of a Forbes cover, was trying and failing to keep up. His white dress shirt was rolled up to his elbows, sweat beading on his forehead as he stirred a massive pot of gumbo. The man was out of his element, and it showed. His tie was long gone, and his usual icy composure was melting faster than butter in a skillet. He glanced at Jasmine, his jaw tight, and muttered, "This is a damn mess. Jazz, you sure you didn't cut corners on those shrimp?" Jasmine whipped around, her eyes blazing. "Cut corners? You got the nerve to stand in my kitchen and accuse me of cheating? Go back to your fancy office, Carter, and leave the real work to me." She slammed the phone down on the counter, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The drama had exploded an hour ago when a viral post on X claimed Dubois Creole Kitchen was serving cheap tainted shrimp in its famous gumbo. Customers had stormed out mid-meal, and the phone hadn't stopped ringing with cancellations. Worse, a notorious food critic, Harold the Hatchet Landry, had just strutted into the dining room, his notepad in hand, smirking like he was about to bury Jasmine's reputation for good. The man had a vendetta against her ever since she'd called him out for a racist review years ago, and now he was here to feast on her downfall. Carter, who'd been dragged into this mess by a marriage contract he never wanted, was under fire too. His board of directors was breathing down his neck, demanding he fix the PR nightmare or kiss his new Creole restaurant chain goodbye. He glared at Jasmine, his voice low and clipped. "You are the one who's supposed to be the star chef. Jasmine, if you're not screwing this up, then who the hell is? Because I am not taking the fall for your shit show." Jasmine stepped closer, her heels clicking on the tiled floor, her finger jabbing at his chest. "My shit show? You were the one who waltzed in here thinking you could run my kitchen with your corporate bullshit. You don't know jack about Creole, Carter, so don't you dare point fingers at me." The tension was thick enough to choke on, but there was no time to brawl. Harold was waiting for his meal, and if they didn't deliver something spectacular, Dubois Creole Kitchen and Carter's multi-million-dollar deal would be toast. Jasmine grabbed a ladle, her movements precise despite her fury, and shoved Carter aside. "Move, rich boy. If we're gonna save this, I need to work my magic." Carter didn't budge. Instead, he grabbed a handful of chopped okra and tossed it into the pot, trying to prove he wasn't useless. "I'm not just gonna stand here. Jazz, tell me what to do." She arched an eyebrow, half amused, half annoyed. "Fine. Stir that gumbo. But don't you dare burn it. This ain't your mama's soup, it's Creole soul, and it's gotta be perfect." As they worked side by side, the kitchen seemed to shrink around them. The heat from the stove mingled with the heat between them, and every brush of their arms felt like a spark. Jasmine leaned over to check the pot, her curls grazing Carter's shoulder. He caught a whiff of her jasmine perfume, and for a split second, his cold CEO facade cracked. "Damn, Jazz," he muttered, his voice softer now. "You're something else when you're in your element. I might have been wrong about you." Jasmine froze, her ladle hovering over the pot. She turned to face him, her brown eyes searching his. "Wrong about me? You mean when you called me a gold-digging hustler who only married you for clout? That kind of wrong." Carter winced, but he didn't back down. "Yeah, that. I was an ass. Okay. But watching you now, you are the real deal. This gumbo, this place it's you, and I'm starting to think I'm the one who's out of my depth." The air shifted heavy with something more than anger. Jasmine's lips parted, but before she could respond, their hands brushed as they both reached for the same spice jar. The touch was electric, and neither pulled away. Carter's gaze dropped to her lips, and Jasmine's breath hitched. In the haze of cayenne and jazz filtering through the kitchen radio, they leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that was all fire and hunger. It was deep, desperate, tasting of spice and unspoken apologies. Their bodies pressed close against the counter until the kitchen door swung open, and Talia Nguyen, the young sous chef with a knack for bad timing, burst in. "Oh shit. All you're burning the gumbo in the kitchen down," she yelped, her eyes wide as she fanned herself dramatically. Jasmine and Carter sprang apart, their faces flushed. Jasmine laughed, swatting Talia with a dish towel. "Girl, get your ass back to work. Ain't nobody burning nothing." Carter ran a hand through his hair, trying to play it cool, but his grin betrayed him as Talia scurried off, giggling. Jasmine turned back to the gumbo, her heart still racing. She didn't know how they'd gone from hating each other to that. But one thing was clear. This night was just the beginning of their story. Rewind a few weeks earlier. The French Quarter was alive with its usual magic. A kaleidoscope of neon signs, street performers, and the scent of beignets drifting from Café du Monde. Horse-drawn carriages clattered down cobblestone streets, and saxophones wailed from open-air bars, their notes weaving through the humid air. It was the kind of place where you could fall in love or lose your soul, and Jasmine Dubois had done a bit of both. At 34, Jasmine was a force of nature, a black Creole chef whose gumbo could make grown men cry, and whose smile could light up Bourbon Street. She ran Dubois Creole Kitchen, a cozy spot with exposed brick walls, colorful murals of Mardi Gras, and a jukebox that played nothing but jazz and Zydeco. Her red dresses and gold jewelry were as much a part of her brand as her food, but beneath the glamour was a woman fighting to keep her family's legacy alive. The restaurant was drowning in debt, and Jasmine was one bad month away from losing it all. Enter Carter Vaughn, the 40-year-old CEO of Vaughn Enterprises, a food empire trying to conquer the Creole market, with his tailored suits and icy blue eyes. Carter was all business, the kind of man who thought he could buy anything, including loyalty. He'd come to New Orleans to launch a chain of Creole restaurants, but his board demanded a local partner to give it authenticity. That's where Jasmine came in, though Carter wasn't thrilled about it. He'd heard the rumors about her, a fiery chef with a sharp tongue and a shady past, supposedly vicious after a public feud with a critic. To him, she was trouble wrapped in a pretty package. Their worlds collided at a tense meeting in a sleek office overlooking the Mississippi River. Carter sat at the head of a glass table, his team of suits flanking him, while Jasmine strode in like she owned the place, her heels clicking and her chin high. Marcel Dubois, her father, and a legendary Creole supplier, had brokered the deal Carter would marry Jasmine to secure an exclusive contract for Marcel's shrimp, crawfish, and spices. In return, Marcel would fund the restaurant chain, and Jasmine would get the cash to save her kitchen. Carter leaned back in his chair, his voice dripping with skepticism. "So, Miss Dubois, you are telling me you're okay with this arrangement?" marrying me for a business deal. Jasmine crossed her arms, her gold bangles clinking. Let's get one thing straight, Mr. CEO. I ain't thrilled about tying the knot with a stiff like you. But I'll do what it takes to save my restaurant. You think you are getting the short end? Try being me, dealing with your stuck-up ass. The room went silent. Carter's team exchanging awkward glances. He smirked, unfazed. Fine, but darn to think you are gonna run the show. Jasmine, this is my empire, and you're just along for the ride. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Ride? Oh, honey, you are about to learn. I don't just ride, I drive. And I'm gonna make your life hell if you cross me. The contract was signed that day, but the sparks between them were already flying. And not the good kind. Carter saw Jasmine as a hustler chasing his money. Jasmine saw Carter as a corporate snob who'd never tasted real Creole. Neither knew they were about to be tested by a storm bigger than either of them. The first cracks in their fragile truce appeared at a family dinner at the Dubois Shotgun House, a vibrant home filled with the smell of pralines and the sound of Mimi Dubois' laughter. Mimi Jasmine. 70-year-old grandmother was a Creole legend, a chef whose gumbo had once drawn lines around the block. She sized Carter up the second he walked in, his polished shoes out of place on the creaky wooden floor. So, you're the big shot marrying my Jazzy, Mimi said, her eyes twinkling with mischief as she handed him a bowl of gumbo so spicy it could wake the dead. Think you got enough fire to keep up with a Dubois? Carter, trying to play it cool, took a big spoonful. His face turned red, his eyes watered, and he coughed so hard the table shook. Lila Jackson, Jasmine's best friend and a jazz singer with a wicked sense of humor, burst out laughing. Yeah, all this man ain't ready for Creole. Look at him, choking like a tourist. Jasmine hid a grin, but Carter caught it. Laugh it up, Jazz, he wheezed, grabbing a glass of water. But I am tougher than you think. Prove it, she shot back, her voice teasing but her eyes challenging. Because right now, you're looking like a fish out of water. The dinner was a mix of warmth and chaos, with Mimi telling exaggerated stories about her youth, and Lila teasing Carter mercilessly. But beneath the jokes, Jasmine felt the weight of the deal. She wasn't just saving her restaurant, she was carrying her family as legacy, and marrying a man who didn't respect her made her blood boil. By the time they left the Dubois house, the marriage contract was official, but the real trouble was just beginning. Back at the restaurant, Jasmine was checking inventory when her phone lit up with a notification. A post on X, shared thousands of times, claimed Dubois Creole Kitchen was using cheap, frozen shrimp and cutting corners. The poster, anonymous. But the timing was too perfect. Someone was out to sabotage her, and Jasmine had a sinking feeling it was tied to Carter's world. She stormed into his temporary office at the restaurant, slamming the phone on his desk. You see this? Someone's trying to bury me, and I bet it is one of your corporate buddies. You gonna fix this? Or you just gonna sit there looking pretty? Carter's jaw clenched, but he didn't flinch. Watch your mouth. Jasmine, I didn't sign up for your drama. If your kitchen's got problems, that's on you. On me, she snapped, stepping so close he could feel her heat. This started the second you and your damn deal showed up. So you better start acting like a husband, or I'll kick your ass from here to Baton Rouge. The fight ended with no resolution, but the stakes were clear. Someone was playing dirty, and Jasmine wasn't going down without a fight. As she walked back to the kitchen, her heels echoing in the empty dining room, she muttered to herself, whoever's behind this, they're about to learn you don't mess with Creole. Che y'all, if you're hooked on this spicy Creole drama and want to see how Jasmine and Carter survived this mess, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Who do you think is sabotaging Jasmine's kitchen? Let us know below, and stay tuned for the next course. The French Quarter was a fever dream during Mardi Gras, a riot of color and chaos that made every other party in New Orleans look like a church picnic. The streets were packed with revelers in glittering masks, their laughter mingling with the brassy wail of trumpets and the thump of second-line bands. Beads flew through the air, catching the glow of gas lamps while the smell of fried dough and crawfish boiled in the distance. It was the kind of night where anything could happen: love, betrayal, or a fight that'd end up on X by morning. For Jasmine Dubois, it was her chance to set the record straight and save her restaurant's name. Dubois, Creole. Kitchen had been limping since that damn X post about tainted shrimp went viral. Customers were scarce, and the whispers about Jasmine's food being cheap were spreading faster than grease fire. But today she wasn't just a chef. She was a warrior, the Mardi. Gras Creole Cook-Off was the biggest stage in town, a showdown where the best chefs in New Orleans battled to prove their soul was the spiciest. Jasmine had entered with one goal: to make a gumbo so good it'd shut up every critic, hater, and anonymous troll in the city. Her booth was a slice of Creole heaven, decked out with red and gold lanterns, a mural of a jazz band, and a massive cast-iron pot simmering with gumbo. The air was thick with the scent of roux, shrimp, and cayenne, drawing a crowd despite the rumors. Jasmine stood at the helm, her red dress clinging to her curves, gold bangles clinking as she stirred the pot with a rhythm that was pure New Orleans. Her curls bounced under a beaded head wrap, and her smile was a weapon, daring anyone to doubt her. Lila Jackson, her best friend and resident jazz diva, was hyping her up from the sidelines, her sequined top sparkling as she waved to the crowd. "Why, all ready for some real Creole magic?" Lila shouted, her voice carrying over the music. "Jasmine Dubois is about to burn this place down with her gumbo. Who's with me?" The crowd roared, but not everyone was cheering. Across the festival grounds, a sleek booth from Global Eats, a corporate chain trying to muscle into the Creole scene, was serving up their own gumbo. Their chef, a smug guy named Victor, had been trash-talking Jasmine all week, hinting to reporters that her food was overrated and her ingredients suspect. Jasmine caught his eye from her booth and flashed a grin that said, "Bring it on, asshole." Inside her booth, things were chaotic, but controlled. Talia Nguyen, her 22-year-old sous chef, was chopping okra like her life depended on it, her braids swinging as she worked. "Jazz, we running low on shrimp," Talia called out, wiping sweat from her brow. "And the judges are coming in 30 minutes. What's the plan?" Jasmine didn't miss a beat. "Plan. We make this gumbo so damn good they forget their own names. Keep chopping, girl, and Don T. Let that pot boil over." She turned to the stove, her hands moving like a conductor, adding a pinch of thyme and a dash of hot sauce. This wasn't just cooking. It was her heart, her heritage. Every lesson Mimi Dubois had drilled into her since she was old enough to hold a spoon. What she didn't expect was Carter Vaughn showing up looking like he'd wandered into the wrong party. His usual suit was swapped for a linen shirt and jeans, but he still screamed outsider in the middle of Mardi Gras madness. He pushed through the crowd, a crate of fresh shrimp balanced on his shoulder, his face set with determination. "Jasmine," he called, setting the crate down with a thud. "Got your shrimp, straight from the Gulf, just like you wanted." Jasmine blinked, caught off guard. "What the hell? You went all the way to the docks for this?" Carter shrugged, a hint of a smirk tugging at his lips. "You said fresh shrimp was non-negotiable. I figured I'd save your ass before you started yelling at me again." She arched an eyebrow, half amused. "Don to get cocky, rich boy. But thanks. Now get out of my way. I got a cook-off to win." Carter tacked on the end of Carter's sentence, her voice carrying over the din. "I all better watch out, 'cause Jasmine Dubois is serving up a gumbo that'll make you cry for your mama." The crowd roared again, and Jasmine felt a surge of pride. This was her city, her people, and no corporate chain or anonymous troll was gonna take that away. She leaned over the pot, tasting the gumbo with a wooden spoon, her eyes closing as the flavors hit, her tongue rich, smoky, with a kick that could wake the dead. It was perfect, a love letter to every Dubois who'd come before her. Carter watched her work as usual, icy demeanor cracking. He'd spent weeks thinking Jasmine was all flash and no substance, a hustler riding her family's name. But seeing her now commanding the booth like a queen, her hands moving with a grace that was almost holy, he realized he'd been dead wrong. She wasn't just a chef, she was Creole royalty, and he was starting to feel like a fool for doubting her. "Damn, Jazz," he said, leaning closer so she could hear him over the noise. "You make this look easy. How the hell do you do it?" She shot him a sideways glance, her lips curving. "It's in my blood. Carter, you wouldn't get it. But stick around, and maybe I'll teach you a thing or two." He chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm trying, woman. Don't make me regret this." The judges arrived, a panel of local food legends, and one out-of-town critic who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jasmine served up her gumbo with a flourish, garnishing each bowl with a sprinkle of green onions and a smile that could melt steel. The crowd hushed as the judges tasted, their faces unreadable at first. Then, one by one, they started nodding, whispering to each other, and finally, the head judge, a grizzled chef named Big Easy, stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, his voice echoing through the festival. "We have a winner. Jasmine Dubois and Dubois Creole Kitchen have just served up the best damn gumbo this city has ever tasted." The crowd erupted, beads flying, music swelling, and Lila let out a whoop that could be heard in Baton Rouge. Jasmine raised her ladle like a scepter, her eyes shining with tears she'd never admit to. Talia hugged her, screaming, "You did it, Jazz. You kicked their asses." Even Carter was clapping, his grin wide and genuine, his eyes locked on Jasmine like she was the only person in the world. She climbed onto a table, her red dress catching the light, and held up the golden crawfish trophy. "This is for New Orleans," she shouted. "For Creole soul, for my family, and for every one of y'all who believed in me. We ain't going nowhere." The cheers were deafening, but across the grounds, Victor from Global Eats was fuming, his face red as he muttered to his team. Jasmine caught his eye and winked, knowing she'd just buried his sorry ass in front of the whole city. As the festival wound down, the crowd thinned and the booth started packing up. Jasmine and her crew cleaned up. She turned, her head tilted. "You sound surprised. Rich boy. Thought I was just a loudmouth with a pretty face." He laughed, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe at first. But now I'm starting to think you're the realest thing in this city." The air between them shifted warm and heavy. The street lamp cast a golden glow over Jasmine. Her skin and her dress shimmered like fire. A slow jazz tune drifted from the bar, all sax and longing, and without thinking, Carter held out his hand. "Dance with me," he said, his voice low. "Just one song." Jasmine raised an eyebrow, but something in his eyes, vulnerable, almost boyish, made her take his hand. They swayed under the lamp, her curves fitting against him like they were made for it. His hand rested on her lower back, and she could feel his heartbeat through his shirt. "You ain't a half bad at this," she murmured, her lips close to his ear. "Only 'cause I got the best partner," he replied, his voice husky. They moved closer, their faces inches apart, the world fading to just the two of them and the music. Carter's fingers brushed a curl from her face, and Jasmine's breath caught. His lips were so close, and she could smell the faint spice of gumbo on him. Just as they leaned in, a raucous second-line band marched by, their trumpets blaring, and a group of drunk revelers tossed beads at them, shouting, "Get a room, why all?" Jasmine burst out laughing, pulling back as Carter dodged a flying bead. "Welcome to Mardi Gras, Carter," she said, her eyes sparkling. Ain't no privacy in New Orleans, he groaned. But he was laughing too, his hand still lingering on hers. You're gonna be the death of me, Jasmine Dubois. And you love it, she shot back, tugging him toward the festival. Come on, we got a victory to celebrate. As they rejoined the crowd, Jasmine felt lighter than she had in weeks. She'd won the cook-off, proved her haters wrong, maybe started to crack Carter's icy shell. But the victory was bittersweet. That ex-post was still out there and someone was gunning for her restaurant. She glanced at Carter, wondering if he was really on her side or if this was just another corporate game. Back at the booth, Lila was packing up, her voice carrying as she teased Talia. Girl, you see the way Carter was looking at Jazz, man's got it bad. Shut your mouth, Lila, Jasmine called, but she couldn't hide her smile. She was riding high, but the night wasn't over. Her phone buzzed with a new ex-post. This one worse than the last. Dubois Creole Kitchen caught using frozen shrimp again. Is Jasmine Dubois a fraud? The post had thousands of shares, and the comments were brutal. Jasmine's stomach dropped. Son of a bitch, she muttered, showing the phone to Carter. This ain't no coincidence. Someone's trying to bury me, and I'm gonna find out who. Carter's face darkened, his jaw tight. We'll figure it out, Jazz, I promise. She nodded, but her mind was racing. This was war, and she was ready to fight. Whoever was behind this was about to learn you don't mess with a Dubois. The French Quarter never slept, but Dubois Creole Kitchen was starting to feel like a ghost town. A week after Jasmine's triumph at the Mardi Gras cook-off, the glow of her golden crawfish trophy was fading fast. The latest ex-post accusing her of using frozen shrimp had spread like wildfire, and the comments were vicious. Fraud, overrated, stick to fast food, Jasmine. Each one stung like a slap, but what hurt worse was the empty dining room. The jukebox still played Zydeco. The murals of jazz legends still grinned from the walls, but the tables were bare, and the waitstaff stood around, whispering nervously. Jasmine Dubois, the Queen of Creole, was fighting a war she didn't start, and she was losing. It was a muggy evening, the kind where the air felt like a wet blanket, and Jasmine was in the kitchen scrubbing pots with a fury that could be peeled paint. Her red dress was swapped for a tank top and jeans, her curls tied back in a messy bun, but her fire was still there, burning hotter than ever. She'd been on the phone all day, arguing with suppliers, begging customers to come back, and dodging reporters who wanted a soundbite for their Jasmine Dubois scandal headlines. Her hands shook as she scrubbed, not from fear, but from rage. Someone was out to bury her, and she'd be damned if she let them win. Talia Nguyen, her sous chef, was prepping for the dinner rush, that is, if anyone showed up. She chopped onions with quick, precise cuts, her braids swinging. Jazz, you seen the new post, she asked, her voice cautious. They were saying we got roaches now. Roaches, in our kitchen. Jasmine slammed a pot down, the clang echoing. Roaches. That's some straight-up bullshit. This place is cleaner than a damn hospital. Whoever's doing this, I'm gonna find them and shove their lies down their throat. Talia nodded, but her eyes were worried. I know, but people are believing it. We had 3 reservations tonight, and 2 canceled. What we gonna do? Jasmine didn't answer right away. She leaned against the counter, her chest tight. She'd poured her soul into this restaurant, every recipe, a piece of her family's history. Every dish a love letter to New Orleans. Now it was crumbling, and the weight of it was crushing her. We keep cooking, she said finally, her voice low but firm. We keep fighting. That's what Duboises do. The kitchen door swung open, and Carter Vaughn walked in, his linen shirt wrinkled and his face tense. He'd been in meetings all day dealing with his board of directors, who were losing their minds over the PR nightmare. Vaughn Enterprises had sunk millions into the Creole restaurant chain, and the board was ready to pull the plug if Jasmine's name kept tanking. Carter looked at her, his jaw tight. "Jasmine, we need to talk." She didn't look up, still scrubbing. "Unless you got a plan to shut down those X-posts, I ain't got time for your corporate crap." "Carter," he stepped closer, his voice sharp. "This isn't just your problem. Jazz, my board's on my ass, saying you were dragging the whole project down. You gotta give me something to work with here. Are you sure your suppliers are legit? No cut corners, no shady deals." Jasmine whipped around, her eyes blazing like a stovetop flame. "You did not just ask me that. You think I'd risk my family's name for some cheap shrimp? Go to hell." "Carter, you don't know shit about my kitchen or my people." Carter held up his hands, but his tone didn't soften. "I am trying to save this, Jasmine, but the board has got evidence photos of frozen shrimp bags in your dumpster. Explain that, or we both screwed. Photos." Jasmine laughed, but it was bitter, cutting. "You think I'm dumb enough to leave evidence lying around? Someone planted that shit, and you were too busy kissing your board's ass to see it." Talia, sensing a storm, slipped out to the dining room, leaving them alone. The kitchen was a pressure cooker, the air thick with the smell of spices and the weight of their fight. Carter ran a hand through his hair, his voice dropping. "Jazz, I am not the enemy here, but you gotta be straight with me. If there is anything you're hiding, tell me now." Jasmine stepped so close, her breath grazed his face, her voice low and dangerous. "Hidin'? The only thing I me hidin' is how much I want to deck you right now. You married me for your damn deal, but you don't trust me. So why the hell are you even here?" Carter's eyes flickered with something guilt, maybe, or frustration. "Because I don't have a choice, and neither do you. We're in this together, like it or not." "Together," she scoffed, turning back to the sink. "Get out of my kitchen. Carter, I don't need your kind of together." He stood there for a moment, his fists clenched, then stormed out the door, slamming behind him. Jasmine gripped the counter, her knuckles white, fighting the urge to scream. She defaced haters before critics, trolls, even that racist asshole Harold Landry. But this was different. This felt personal, like someone knew exactly how to hit her where it hurt. The next night, Lila Jackson had a plan to save the restaurant a jazz night to draw a crowd she'd called in her band, a group of brass and percussion wizards who could make a funeral feel like a party and turn Dubois Creole Kitchen into a stage. The dining room was decked out with fairy lights, the jukebox silent for once, as Lila's sultry voice filled the air singing about love and heartbreak over a saxophone's wail. But the turnout was pitiful. A handful of loyal regulars showed up, sipping cocktails and clapping politely, but the empty tables were a knife in Jasmina's heart. She stood behind the bar, pouring bourbon for a customer, her smile forced. Lila finished her set and joined her, her sequin dress catching the light. "Jazz, you holding up okay?" she asked, her voice soft. Jasmine shrugged, wiping the bar with a rag. "I'm fine. Lila, just tired. These damn posts are killing us. And Carter's no help. He's too busy playing CEO to give a shit." Lila raised an eyebrow, pouring herself a shot. "Oh, come on. I saw how he looked at you during Mardi Gras. Man's got it bad, even if he's too dumb to admit it." Jasmine snorted, but her heart wasn't in it. "He don't trust me. Lila thinks I'm the one screwing this up. How am I supposed to work with that?" Lila leaned closer, her voice firm. "You don't need him, Jazz. You're a Jasmine freaking Dubois. You got Mimi's blood, your daddy's grit, and a kitchen that's pure magic. Whoever's doing this, you'll bury him. You always do." Jasmine managed a small smile, but it faded when her phone buzzed with another X notification. This one had a photo, a blurry shot, of a frozen shrimp bag in her dumpster, just like Carter said. The caption read, Jasmine Dubois caught red-handed. Creole. Kitchen is a scam. Her hand shook as she showed it to Lila. This is planted. Lila, I swear on my life, I'd never use that crap. Lila's eyes narrowed. Then we find out who's planting it. You got any guesses? Jasmine's mind went to Derek Hayes. Carter as sleazy right-hand man at Vaughn Enterprises. Derek had been sniffing around the restaurant lately, always asking questions about suppliers and costs, his smile too slick for her liking. Maybe, she said, her voice cold, but I need proof. The next morning, Jasmine was in the kitchen early, prepping for a catering gig that might keep the lights on. Talia was there too, sorting through invoices, her face tense. Jazz, I found something weird, she said, holding up her phone. I was checking Derek SX account. Don't ask how I got in, and there's a DM he sent to some random account. Says, keep the pressure on her. She'll crack. Sounds shady. Right, just means blood ran hot. Shady as hell. But a DM ain't enough to nail him. We need more. Talia nodded. But before she could reply, the kitchen door opened, and Mimi Dubois shuffled in her floral dress, bright against the steel counters. At 70, Mimi was a force, her eyes sharp and her tongue sharper. She carried a tray of pralines, the sweet smell filling the room. Mornin', my girls, she said, setting the tray down. Heard you all got trouble. What's this nonsense about frozen shrimp? Jasmine sighed, filling her in. Mimi listened, her face unreadable, then slammed her fist on the counter, making Talia jump. That's a damn lie, and you know it. Jazzy, your kitchen's cleaner than my Sunday hat. Someone's playing dirty. And I'd bet my gumbo it's that snake Derek. Jasmine nodded, her resolve hardening. I'm working on it, Mimi, but Carter's not helping. He's half convinced I'm the problem. Mimi snorted, handing her a praline. That boy's got a stick up his ass. But he's not dumb. Show him who you are. Jazzy, Yuri fire and fire don't bend. Jasmine took the praline, the sweetness grounding her. Thanks, Mimi. I ain't bendin' for nobody. That evening, Carter showed up at the restaurant, his face a mix of guilt and determination. The dining room was empty. The jazz night, a bust. And Jasmine was in the kitchen, testing a new étouffée recipe. He stepped inside, holding a bottle of bourbon like a peace offering. Jasmine, he said, his voice low. I screwed up. Can we talk? She didn't look up. Stirring the pot. Talk. You got a funny way of talking. Accusing me of lying. He set the bourbon on the counter, stepping closer. I was wrong. Okay, I let the board get in my head, but I'm starting to think you were right. Someone's setting you up. I want to help. Jasmine finally met his eyes, her gaze hard. Help you want to help. Start by trusting me. I don't cut corners. Carter. Never have. Never will. He nodded, his jaw tight. I get it. I'm sorry. Jazz, let me make it right. She sighed, softening just a fraction. Fine. But you are on thin ice. Rich boy. And if you want to make it right, grab a spoon and help me with this roux. Carter grinned. A real one this time. And picked up a spoon. He stirred the roux, his movements clumsy but earnest. Like this, he asked, looking at her like a kid seeking approval. Jasmine rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. Lord, you're hopeless. Keep stirring, but don't burn it, or I'll kick your ass. He laughed, and for a moment the kitchen felt lighter, the tension easing. But then Carter, trying to be helpful, added a pinch of cayenne without asking. The roux bubbled over, sending a cloud of smoke into the air. Jasmine yelped, grabbing the pot as Talia burst in, coughing. Why all trying to burn the place down, she shouted, fanning the smoke. Jasmine swatted Carter with a dish towel, laughing despite herself. You're a damn disaster, Carter. But points for trying. He grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. I'll take it. As they cleaned up the mess, Jasmine felt a spark of hope. Maybe Carter was starting to get it. But the ex-posts were still out there, and Derek's shadow loomed larger than ever. She glanced at Carter, wondering if he'd really stand by her when the next bomb dropped. The French Quarter was quieter in the early morning, the streets still littered with beads and beer cans from the night before, the air heavy with the promise of another humid day. Dubois Creole Kitchen sat like a wounded warrior, its neon sign flickering, but still proud inside. Jasmine Dubois was elbow-deep in a crate of crawfish, sorting through them with a focus that could have burned holes in steel. Her tank top was damp with sweat, her curls tied back, but her eyes were sharp, fueled by a mix of rage and determination. The ex-posts had nearly killed her restaurant, but she wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. The latest blow had come last night when a food blogger with a massive following posted a review claiming Dubois Creole Kitchen was a tourist trap with subpar food. The comments were a cesspool of hate, and Jasmine had spent hours reading them, each one a knife to her pride. But Talia's discovery of Derek Hayes' shady DM. Keep the pressure on her. Shiel Crack had lit a fire under her. Derek Carter, his slimy right-hand man at Vaughn Enterprises, was looking more and more like the snake behind the sabotage, and Jasmine was ready to skin him alive. She was so focused on the crawfish that she didn't hear the kitchen door open. Carter Vaughn stepped in, looking less like a CEO and more like a man who hadn't slept in days. His linen shirt was rumpled, his jaw shadowed with stubble, and his usual icy confidence was nowhere to be found. He carried a laptop under one arm and a cup of chicory coffee in the other, a peace offering after their blowout fight. "Jasmine," he said, his voice cautious. "You got a minute?" She didn't look up, her hands still sorting. "Unless you are here to tell me Derek's ass is fired." "I'm busy." "Carter." He set the coffee on the counter, undeterred. "That's exactly why I'm here. Talia showed me the DM. I dug into Derek's emails last night, and you were right. He's been talking to Global Eats, feeding them dirt to tank your restaurant." Jasmine froze, her hands still in the crate. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. "You were telling me that son of a bitch is working with—" Jasmine studied him, searching for any sign of bullshit. She'd spent weeks thinking Carter was just another corporate suit who'd throw her under the bus the second things got rough. But the way he was looking at her now, all earnest and determined, made her reconsider. Maybe he was starting to get it. Maybe he was starting to see her. "Fine," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "We do this together, but you better not flake on me. Carter, I don't give second chances." He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Deal. And Jazz, I'm sorry. For doubting you. For acting like an ass. You're something else. And I should be seeing it sooner." Her heart skipped, but she played it cool, tossing the towel at him. "Save the sweet talk, rich boy. We got work to do." That afternoon, Jasmine invited Carter to the Dubois family home, a colorful shotgun house in the Treme, to plan their next move. The place was a shrine to Creole culture, photos of Mardi Gras parades on the walls, a jukebox in the corner playing Fats Domino, and the sweet smell of pralines wafting from the kitchen. Mimi Dubois was there, her floral dress bright as she stirred a pot of red beans and rice, her eyes twinkling with mischief as Carter walked in. "Well, look who's back," Mimi said, sizing him up. "You here to burn my kitchen down again, or you finally on Jazzy's side?" Carter grinned, raising his hands in surrender. "I am on her side. Miss Mimi. Promise I won't touch the stove this time." Mimi snorted, handing him a praline. "Good, 'cause last time you nearly sent us all to Jesus with that gumbo fiasco." Jasmine laughed, the sound easing the tension in her chest. She led Carter to the living room where they spread out the laptop and notes on a coffee table cluttered with Mardi Gras beads and old cookbooks. As they pored over the emails, Jasmine explained her plan. She to create a new dish for the launch party. Something so spectacular it to prove her talent beyond a doubt. Carter would handle the tech side, setting up a presentation to expose Derek S. emails in front of the board and press. "It's gotta be perfect," Jasmine said, her voice fierce. "This ain't just about Sav," she said, her voice fierce. "This ain't just about saving my restaurant. It's about my family, my city, my soul. I'm putting everything I got into this etouffee, and I need you to make sure the world sees Derek for the snake he is." Carter nodded, his eyes steady. "I got you, Jazz. We'll hit 'em so hard they want to know what's coming." As they worked, Mimi shuffled in with a tray of pralines, setting it down with a flourish. "Why all need fuel for this war," she said, then turned to Carter. "Now, boy, you ever made pralines before?" Carter blinked, caught off guard. No, Ma can't say I have." Mimi clapped her hands, delighted. "Well, come on. Then time you learned something useful." What followed was pure chaos. Mimi dragged Carter and Jasmine into the kitchen, where she handed them aprons and a recipe older than the Mississippi. Carter, trying to keep up, spilled sugar all over the counter, earning a playful swat from Mimi. "Lord, you're worse than Jazzy when she was 5, she cackled, as Jasmine doubled over, laughing. "Give him a break." "Mimi," Jasmine said, wiping tears from her eyes. "He's trying." Carter grinned, licking sugar off his fingers. "This is harder than running a company. I swear." The pralines were a mess, lumpy, uneven, and slightly burned, but they tasted like heaven sweet and nutty with a hint of caramel as they sat around the table eating their creations. Jasmine felt something shift. Carter wasn't just a suit anymore. He was here in her family's kitchen, laughing with Mimi, getting sugar on his shirt, and looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. It was dangerous, this feeling, but she couldn't shake it. "Tell me something," she said, leaning back in her chair, her voice soft. "Why you doing this?" "Carter, you could walk away. Let the board cut me loose. Why stick your neck out?" He looked at her, his eyes serious. "Because I was wrong about you, Jazz. I thought you were some hustler, chasing fame, but you were real. This place, your family, your food, it's worth fighting for. And maybe I'm starting to see you as more than just a business deal." Her breath caught, and for a moment the world was just the two of them, the jukebox humming in the background, the smell of pralines lingering. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his, and their fingers intertwined, warm and steady. It wasn't a kiss, but it was close, a promise of something more. Mimi, watching from the kitchen, muttered to herself, "'Bout damn time," and went back to her red beans. The next day, Jasmine threw herself into perfecting her etouffee, a creamy, spicy dish of crawfish and Holy Trinity onions, bell peppers, and celery that was pure Creole comfort. She spent hours in the kitchen, tasting, tweaking, pouring her heart into every spoonful. Talia helped, her knife skills sharp as she chopped vegetables, while Lila popped in to blast music and keep the mood light. "You gonna knock 'em dead with this?" "Jazz," Lila said, swaying to a Irma Thomas song. "This etouffee is so good, it'll make 'em forget their own names." Jasmine grinned, stirring the pot. "That's the plan, girl. Hit 'em so hard they can't talk shit no more." But the pressure was mounting. Word had spread about the launch party, and the guest list was a who's who of New Orleans food critics, influencers, even a few celebrities. The board was watching. Global Eats was lurking, and Derek was still out there, a snake waiting to strike. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a new ex-post. Jasmine Dubois, new dish, is a desperate attempt to save her failing restaurant. The comments were brutal, but she forced herself to ignore them. She had a job to do. Carter was at the restaurant too, setting up a projector for the presentation. He'd been working non-stop, pulling strings to get the press on their side. and Jasmine caught him stealing glances at her as she cooked. "Focus, rich boy," she teased, tossing a shrimp at him. "You're supposed to be saving my ass, not staring at it." He caught the shrimp, laughing. "Can help it. Jazz, you're distracting as hell." She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks warmed. Damn him and that smile. As the launch party loomed, Jasmine and Carter finalized their plan. They'd serve the étouffée, let the guests rave, then hit the crowd with the emails, exposing Derek's betrayal. It was risky if they mistimed it. The board could turn on them, but Jasmine was ready to gamble. She'd fought too hard to lose now. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her French Quarter apartment, she thought about Carter. His hand in hers, his apology, the way he'd stood up to the board. He was changing, and so was she. She didn't want to admit it, but she was starting to trust him. Maybe even more. It scared her, but it also felt right. Like a roux coming together just before it burns. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carter. "We got this. Jazz, you're gonna kill it." She smiled, typing back, "Damn right, done to screw it up, rich boy." But as she drifted off, a nagging fear lingered. Derek wasn't a dumb, he'd know they were coming for him, and snakes like him didn't go down without a fight. The French Quarter was a restless beast, its streets pulsing with late-night jazz and the clink of bourbon glasses. But inside Dubois Creole kitchen, the mood was the funeral. The launch party for Vaughn Enterprises. Creole restaurant chain was 2 days away, and Jasmine Dubois was fighting a war on all fronts. The ex-posts had gotten uglier, the latest one accusing her of cheating in the Mardi Gras cook-off with pre-made gumbo. The comments were a cesspool. "She's a fake. Creole kitchen is done. Jasmine Dubois is a liar." Each one was a punch to her gut, but she kept moving, her hands steady as she perfected her étouffée in the kitchen. She had to. The launch was her last shot to save her restaurant, her family's legacy, and maybe even her marriage. It was a sticky evening, the air thick with the threat of rain, and the kitchen was a hive of tension. Jasmine stood over a steaming pot, her red tank top clinging to her skin, her curls pulled into a high bun. The étouffée was coming together. Crawfish, tails swimming in a creamy, spicy sauce, the holy trinity of onions, bell peppers and celery singing in harmony. It was her masterpiece, a dish that could make New Orleans forgive her, but the weight of the world was on her shoulders, and she felt it in every bone. Talia Nguyen was at the prep station, her knife flashing as she diced tomatoes, but her usual chatter was gone. "Jazz," she said quietly, glancing at her phone. "You seen the new post they re-saying you bribed the Mardi Gras judges? It's got, like, 10,000 shares." Jasmine's jaw tightened, but she didn't look up. "Let 'em talk, Talia. They can approve shit, 'cause it ain't a true. Keep chopping." Talia nodded, but her eyes were worried. The restaurant was hemorrhaging money, and the staff was whispering about layoffs. Even Lila Jackson, the eternal optimist, had been subdued when she stopped by earlier. Her jazz night a bust with only a handful of customers. The whole city seemed to be turning on Jasmine, and the pressure was suffocating. The kitchen door swung open, and Carter Vaughn walked in, his face grim. He'd been dodging calls from the board all day, their threats to cancel the restaurant chain growing louder with every ex-post. His linen shirt was wrinkled, his eyes shadowed, but he carried a stack of papers. Evidence against Derek Hayes, the snake they were planning to expose at the launch. He set the papers down, his voice low. "Jasmine, we got a problem. The board is losing it. They saw the bribery post, and they were saying we need to cut you loose or the whole deal's off." Jasmine's spoon froze mid-stir, her eyes snapping to his. "Cut me loose? You serious right now, Carter? After everything we planned, you're gonna let those suits throw me under the bus?" Carter held up his hands, his voice strained. I'm not saying I agree. Jazz, I'm trying to save this. But they've got photos, emails, all kinds of bullshit claiming you paid off the judges. I know it's not true, but what she cut him off, stepping closer, her voice ablade. You gonna stand there and tell me you believe me, then turn around and ditch me? You were supposed to be my damn husband, Carter, not some spineless CEO kissing the board's ass. The kitchen went silent. Talia slipping out to avoid the storm. Carter's face hardened, but there was pain in his eyes. I am not ditching you, Jasmine, but I've got a company to run, and if I don't give them something, they'll tank the whole project. You, me, the restaurant chain gone. I am trying to protect us both. Protect us. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You are protecting your bank account, not me. I should be known you'd bail when shit got real. Get the hell out of my kitchen, Carter. I'll do this myself. He stood there, his fists clenched, his voice dropping to a whisper. Jazz, don't do this. We are so close. Let me. Out she shouted, pointing at the door. I don't need you or your damn board. Go. Carter's jaw twitched, but he didn't fight back. He grabbed his papers and walked out the door, slamming behind him. Jasmine turned back to the pot, her hands shaking as she stirred. Her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. She'd trusted him, let him in, and now he was wavering. It hurt more than she'd admit, and that made her angrier than anything. The next morning, Jasmine was alone in the restaurant, the dining room dark except for a single light above the bar. She sat on a stool, a glass of bourbon in her hand, staring at the golden crawfish trophy from Mardi Gras. It felt like a lifetime ago, that moment of triumph, the crowd cheering her name. Now, the silence was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of a street performer's trumpet. Her phone buzzed with another X-post. Jasmine Dubois launch party is a sham. Don T. waste your time. The comments were relentless, and for the first time, Jasmine felt the fight slipping out of her. She'd been strong her whole life, through her feud with Harold Landry, through the debt that nearly sank the restaurant, but this was different. This felt like the end. The door creaked open, and Mimi Dubois walked in, her floral scarf, bright against the gloom. At 70, she moved with the grace of a woman half her age, her eyes sharp as she took in her granddaughter's slumped shoulders. Jazzy, she said, sitting beside her. You look like you're carrying the whole quarter on your back. Talk to me. Jasmine took a sip of bourbon, her voice low. It's over, Mimi. The posts, the board, Carter, everything's fallen apart. I can keep fighting when the whole damn city thinks I'm a fraud. Mimi's hand landed on hers, firm and warm. Now you listen to me. Jasmine Dubois, you're a blood of my blood, fire of my fire. This city don't get to decide who you are. You re-Creole, and Creole don't break. You hear me? Jasmine's eyes stung, but she nodded. I hear you, Mimi. But what if I'm not enough? Mimi squeezed her hand, her voice fierce. You are more than enough. You got your mama's heart, my hands, and your daddy's grit. And you got that kitchen, girl. That etouffee you were making, it's gonna bring 'em to their knees. So get your ass back in there and fight. Jasmine managed a small smile, the bourbon warming her chest. You don't let up, do you? Not when it comes to my Jazzy, Mimi said, kissing her forehead. Now go. You got a war to win. That afternoon, Jasmine was back in the kitchen, pouring her soul into the etouffee. She worked alone, the rhythm of chopping and stirring, grounding her. The dish was perfect, silky spicy, a love letter to New Orleans, and she'd be damned if anyone took it from her. Talia and Lila stopped by bringing coffee and music to lift her spirits. Lila, ever the clown, did an exaggerated impression of Derek strutting around the kitchen with a fake sneer. Oh, I'm Derek, the big bad corporate jerk. Ruinin' Creole for my own dumb ass, she crowed, making Talia snort. Jasmine laughed, the sound surprising her. Why all are ridiculous, she said, tossing a bell pepper at Lila. But I love you for it. Love you too, Jazz, Lila said, catching the pepper. And we're gonna kick Derek's ass at that launch. You will see. But the laughter faded when Jasmine checked her phone. A new X-post had dropped this one with a blurry video of someone dumping frozen shrimp bags in her dumpster. Time-stamped last night. The caption read, Proof Jasmine Dubois is a cheat. Boycott Creole Kitchen. Her heart sank. It was a setup, but it looked real enough to fool the world. She was about to call Carter when the kitchen door opened and he walked in, his face pale. Jazz, he said, his voice urgent. I saw the video. It is Derek. He's got to be behind it. I checked the security footage from the alley, and there's a guy in a hoodie dumping those bags, but I can't ID him yet. Jasmine's eyes flashed. You were telling me this now. Where the hell were you when the board was trying to cut me loose? Carter stepped closer, his voice raw. I was fighting for you. Jazz, I told the board to shove it. I'm not letting you go. I was wrong. Okay, I was scared, and I fucked up. But I'm here now. I believe in you, and I'm not going anywhere. She stared at him, her anger warring with the ache in her chest. He looked like hell, his eyes pleading, and she saw something she hadn't before: vulnerability. Carter Vaughn, the untouchable CEO, was laying himself bare. And it shook her. Fine, she said, her voice softer but still sharp. You are back in, but you pull that shit again, and we were done for good. He nodded, relief flooding his face. I won to Jazz, I swear. She handed him a spoon, a small olive branch. Then get over here and help me finish this etouffee. We got a launch to save. The day before the launch, disaster struck. Jasmine arrived at the restaurant to find a delivery truck idling out back, the driver looking panicked. Miss Dubois, he said, wringing his hands. The crawfish shipment's gone bad. Whole batch is spoiled, smells like death. I don't know what happened. Jasmine's stomach dropped. Crawfish was the heart of her etouffee, and without it the dish was dead. She checked the crates, gagging at the stench. This ain't a no accident, she muttered, her mind racing to Derek. He'd played his final card, and it was a knockout. She called her suppliers, begged for a rush order, but no one could deliver in time. The launch was tomorrow, and the guest list was packed with critics, influencers, and the board. Without her etouffee, she'd be serving nothing but humiliation. She sank onto a crate, her head in her hands, the fight draining out of her. Talia and Lila tried to help, calling every contact they had, but the clock was ticking. By evening, Jasmine was alone in the kitchen, staring at an empty pot, her dreams slipping away. The door creaked open and Carter walked in, his arms loaded with crates. His shirt was soaked, his hair a mess, but his grin was triumphant. Jasmine, he said, setting the crates down. Fresh crawfish. Straight from a guy I know in Houma. Drove 3 hours to get 'em. She blinked, stunned. You did what? Couldn't have let you go down without a fight, he said, stepping closer. I told you, Jazz, I am not leaving you to do this alone. Her eyes stung, and before she could stop herself, she threw her arms around him, hugging him tight. He hugged her back, his hands warm on her back. And for a moment, the world was just them, the smell of crawfish and the hum of the kitchen. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking. He pulled back, his eyes soft. We're gonna kick ass tomorrow, Jazz. You and me. She nodded, her fire reigniting. Derek had tried to break her, but he'd underestimated her and Carter. The launch was their last stand, and they were ready to fight.